Hey there, and welcome to this lesson on symmetry. My name is Cameron, and you are watching Motion Science. And here we are inside of After Effects, and I've got a new composition, HD TV 1920 by 1080. We're going to call it Tunnel. 10 seconds in duration. We'll go full resolution to start. Click OK. There we go. Up here in the assets, I'm going to show you an image I found here. I'm going to double click it. This is an image I found off of a Google search. I typed in black texture. I also searched black and white texture, marble texture, granite textures. I tried a lot of different textures. And this technique I'm going to show you here is really powerful, but you do have to have an ideal image to use for this technique. Like I said, there's a lot of different ways. There's a lot of different images you can use for this technique. And I've done this technique in other lessons before with different images. So I just want to let you know, it may not work with every image and look, super cool, but get some images like this. It doesn't have to be black and white, it could be color. This is one I found that I tried and it worked. So close that out. I'm going to drag down this texture into my timeline here. And we're going to scale this guy down just so we can see it. So maybe we'll go down here to 45%. And then we're going to go to Effect. And we're going to go to Stylize. And we're going to find a plugin here called CC Kaleido. Now, there's other plugins that are going to do some similar things. But this is one I like. I also like one from Sapphire I use a lot as well. So we're not going to do much with this. We're just going to increase the size here and just kind of drag it up. It's fun to watch this stuff. I mean, you can do some really interesting animation just by playing around with the size parameters. So like, let's say I left this, just for examples here, at 20 and animated it all the way up to 90, something like this. And, we can just watch it. And like I said, it's creating symmetry on the sides here. We have symmetry on the top as well. The sides are what are animating. You can see it's really cool, right? Just a really simple technique to create symmetry. Now, this is not what we're going to do, but I'll show you. You can also do like wheel. It's just going to create different types of mirroring. Try this one. Pretty cool. We're going to go back to flower. We're just going to keep it very simple, and we're going to turn off our keys to the sides, but I am going to stick here with 90. And then we're going to make this a 3D layer, and we're going to push it back in space about 2000, something like that, actually forward in space. Also going to adjust the scale back up to maybe 80%. And it doesn't look, super great at this point. That's okay. We're going to duplicate, and we'll do negative 1500, duplicate negative 1000, duplicate negative 500. So I'm just going by 500 pixels each time. So negative 500 plus 500 is 0. Duplicate again. Maybe, actually we'll go, this will be positive 500. So we can only see this top layer here, and to see all of them, I'm going to go into my transfer modes. Click on this button down here, go into lighten. Let's do lighten. So immediately, look at that. I mean, that's pretty cool stuff. There's no movement here, but that's already looking pretty nice. We could also add a, let's add a camera here. So let's do a one node camera so that we don't have to deal with, if we had two nodes, we have to deal with the point of interest, but we're going to use one node. And let's go with 35. Click OK. And let's hit P for position. And let's set this to something. Let's actually back it up here. So we're just dragging left. Maybe somewhere in here. I don't know, maybe something like that. And we'll extend our timeline. We'll go to the end of the timeline here, and we'll move forward. And I want it to be pretty slow animation. So maybe something like that. And I didn't set a keyframe. So let me go back here, set a keyframe, and then back to the front. And I think we were at negative 32, negative 34, somewhere in there. Something like this. That works. So now it looks like we're kind of moving through this tunnel, right? And that's why I got called this tunnel. So we're making an interesting looking tunnel. Let's add a light. Layer new light, and we'll do a spotlight. And we'll open this up, come up in here, make it a little bit more on the blue side. So it's just a very light blue. It's not 100% white. Rule of thumb, typically you don't want to, your images or your designs are gonna look nicer if you're not 100% white, right? Now, sometimes I even forget to do this, and I'll keep them 100% white, and the stuff looks okay. But if you get a little bit of a tint, like this little blue tint, it's gonna work a little bit nicer. I'm also gonna drop the intensity down, maybe drop the cone angle down as well. And we'll add that. And you can see how much more interesting this makes it already, right? So I'm gonna back it up here, and you can see it starts to really it just creates a lot of visual interest, right? Just by using a simple light. Now I'm gonna back it up because I wanna have a little bit of a vignette here. If I turn the light off, you can seeing the full edges here, it's just not very pleasing to the eye. It could work, but creating a little bit of a vignette in these corners just makes it a little bit more interesting. So we'll back it up a little bit more. And it doesn't have to be a lot, right? See, there's just a little bit of a vignette there. So that works for me. Something else we're gonna do is, I don't love this look here. It looks very geometric. And even though this is symmetry, there's two types of symmetry, right? There's geometric and there's kind of like an abstract. So I want to create a new solid, and we'll make this black to match the background. And I'm going to call this cover up. And to this, I'm going to apply an ellipse mask. I'm just going to kind of go here in the center, hold down Shift and Command. And I'm going to drag out something like so. And I'm gonna hit F for feather on that mask. I'm gonna feather this guy quite a bit. I don't want to see all of this, so I think that's probably okay for feathering at 194. I'm gonna hit V for my arrow tool, and I'm gonna double click any point on this mask. And by doing that, it selects the entire mask, right? So I'm only selecting one point here, but if I double click, there we go. And Shift Command to constrain this. Maybe something like that. That might be too big. But it might work because we're gonna do one more step here. So let's go ahead and preview this really quickly and see how that looks. Okay, so there is our playback, and you can see it's already looking pretty interesting. Couple things. I think right before I did the pause to do the preview here, I think I said we're going to do one more thing. We're actually going to do a couple more things to this to make it look even better. So let's get started on what those couple things are that we are going to adjust here. So number one, we're going to take this cover up, and we're going to make it a little bit smaller and something like that. I'm also going to bring in the top. I don't want it to be a perfect circle, right? I'm going to hold down Command here to extend both sides. That makes it look a little bit more interesting, just so it's not a totally perfect circle here. We're also going to hit R for rotation and set a keyframe here at the beginning for Z rotation. And we're going to go down to the end of our timeline, and we're going to say, let's just rotate by -20 degrees. So if I solo this layer, you can see it's a very soft rotation, right? Let's actually preview that. Let's jump down to 1/4 so we can actually see it. So, it's not like it's not a 180-degree rotation. It's a soft 20-degree rotation, right? So now let's add the next layer to it right here. R for rotation, set a keyframe, but I want this to be offset. So let's start this one at -20. And we're gonna go 20 degrees again. So we'll end it at -40. And then we're just gonna go down the line here. And we're gonna start, set a keyframe here. So this one needs to start at -40. And we'll hit R for rotation, start at 60. R for rotation, negative 80. And I'm going to scoot the timeline up here. And R for rotation, negative 100. I think that's about right. 0, negative 20, negative 40, negative 60, negative 80, negative 100. Okay, cool. We'll go to the end here and we'll start here. This should be negative 60. This should be negative 80, negative 100. And I did not set a keyframe on this bottom one. Need to make sure and do that. And this will be negative 120. So if I unsolo these guys here, now look at what we got, right? Way more interesting to look at. See that? Just a lot more visual interest here. Now, again, I see some things I don't like. I am focused for whatever reason on this foreground one here. And that's this guy right here. And it's just, I don't know, man. It just, when it gets to this point here, it's just very distracting to me. So I could do one of two things. I could turn it off. And I kind of see one behind it. It's starting to get a little bit more distracting. What I could also do is go AA and turn on my depth of field like so. And maybe bump up my aperture like that. And I don't love that. So maybe we just leave it barely on. So on and off. Okay, that's not so great. Let's try something else. Let's turn off depth of field. Let's go up to our camera layer settings, layer camera settings, and let's change it to 24. So it's a little bit wider. And let's see how this looks. So that's a little bit more interesting. I do think I need to push in, yeah, somewhere right there. And not push in so much there. Let's go ahead and duplicate this bottom layer and let's actually, let's see here. I'm wondering if we add one more layer. No, that's not going to do it. I thought maybe it'd make a little bit more visual interest, but we don't need it. So again, let's play with this cover up here just a little bit. Let's turn up the feather a little bit more. I like that. And I'm holding down Command here. And let's also play around with the spotlight here. And let's just hit P for position and let's just bring it in. You know, maybe this is really bugging me right there. That's kind of interesting with a little bit more vignette up here. Let's see here. What's our foreground guy? It's this guy right there. So if I turn him off, way less distracting. So if I turn him back on, maybe I can drop the transparency here a little bit. So maybe 50%. Yeah. That's cool. And let's add an effect here to kind of finish this off. Let's go to layer, new adjustment layer. And we'll go to effect, color correction, and we'll go down here to exposure. And we're gonna command, or I'm sorry, Alt or Option click on exposure. And we're gonna add an expression here. And that expression is wiggle. And we'll do an amplitude of 5 and a frequency of 3. So actually it's the other way around. So frequency and amplitude. So 5 times per second, we're going to adjust the exposure by a value of 3, which is actually quite a bit. So you can see here, we've got some crazy strobe kind of light effects, very creepy looking. One thing I see here that I don't like is now I'm looking at this, I don't like how it's so much darker up here versus down here. So I'm trying to take that point of interest. If I can adjust it a little bit here. That probably works. And I pull out the Z. Now let's turn off the exposure. Maybe something like that. We'll turn the exposure back on. You could also add something here like, I don't know, we could add some chromatic aberration to it. Let's see here. Maybe just offset the rotation. It's probably gonna be too much. Yeah, way too much. Maybe 0.2. And so that's width. I don't know if you can see that. Very, very subtle, but I like it. So let's preview this and see how it looks. And there you have it. There is our tunnel made of symmetry, right? It's not geometric symmetry per se. I mean, in a sense, it kind of is, because it's reflecting this side part up here is the same as this. Back here, it's the same as this. Back here, it's the same as this. And so on and so forth from every angle. But it's also very abstract symmetry, right? So I think it's a really cool technique. It's really easy to pull off, and it looks really dope. So like I said, you can do this with a lot of different images. I invite you to try it for yourself and see what you come up with. But that is my exercise for you on symmetry in motion design.